Welcome to this week's Food Sports Central, the podcast of the World Food Championships. I'm, of course, your host, Mark Conway, and we have been having a blast talking with our top 10 competitors for Final Table. As you know, we are a heartbeat away from the opening rounds of this year's Final Table that will take place in Lake Murray Country, South Carolina. There is going to be festivals, there's going to be live music, there's going to be a party atmosphere. Oh, but wait, that's for everybody except the competitors. For the competitors, they have to go round by round by round to be crowned the World Food Champion and walk away with $100,000 in cash and prizes. So this year's is really different. And as you've heard from some of the competitors, there's some twists, there's some turns, and with each one we've talked to, they've heard a little more at this point. So now our guest this week has literally heard about as much as anybody's going to hear before we get on the ground. So without further ado, someone who is no stranger, number one, to World Food Championships, no stranger to being in the top 10, as she's been there for 3 years, and has a unique perspective while having not competed necessarily in the big dance. There's on as herself, she has had the opportunity to see what happens at Final Table from, I think, one of the best spots in the house. So I want to welcome this week to the show the reigning seafood champion, Chef Carol Cody. How are you?
Hello, Mark. Thank you so much for having me.
We've been looking forward to this, and you're crazy busy because you've had so much going on since Final Table, and you're also trying to prep for Final Table and try to practice and go do all the steps. What has your life been like since you left Dallas as the seafood champion to where you sit right now, just days away from Final Table?
It has been a wild ride. I mean, I just started a new job this past January. So I'm only a couple months there. I'm getting my feet wet there and cooking my tail off there. So it's been a lot of things going on while trying to, in all of my spare time, prep for Final Table.
That is, one, starting a new job at a restaurant. For those who don't know, cooking at home every day is one thing. And, cooking 3 meals a day, doing the whole job. But when you're cooking in a restaurant, and it's a new restaurant that you're going into, there are so many systems to learn, recipes to learn, recipes to write, staff to understand, billing, food costs, the front of the house, the back of the house. That in itself is a world that is unbelievably stress-filled. But also, on top of that, you are getting yourself ready for a chance at $100,000. I mean, that is a plate that is, for lack of a better way to put it, full.
Only a little bit. And just to add an extra little wrench in it, I work in healthcare. So I work in senior living. So with COVID being a thing, it's been a challenge in and of itself. And my residents are who I cook for. So it's 3 meals a day for the same people every day.
Now with healthcare, it's like you said, you've got COVID, you've got all kinds of restrictions, you have dietary restrictions. So you're really taking it even to another level. So you're just seeing how many things you can pile in while still being rip-roaring ready to go, because in a few days you're going to hit the ground at Final Table. Now, while you've been 7 years of the World Food Championships, 3 years you finished in the top 10, 2 years you came in second in the top 10 round, and then this past year you won seafood, which, a lot of people know this and they hear it every year. Seafood is one of the most highly contested categories at World Food Championships, and you have been top 2 years and then won it in a year, and now you're headed into your first Final Table as the competing chef. Before we get to that little caveat you'll have, what was your journey to Final Table like? When you hit the ground in Dallas and you saw the banners hanging from the ceiling and you saw all of the new things that were happening, what was that week like in Dallas for you?
Dallas was a whirlwind. Can I tell you, it was something bigger and better than World Food Championships has ever been before. I was so excited to see, one, that it was indoors, And it was a spectacle for not only the competitors, but also the crowds that were coming to cheer us on and to experience the life that we love. So I was just overwhelmed with how amazing and how much bigger and better it gets every year.
And they really did. It's each year they go to up that game. Now, next year, or later this year, when we get to the 10th anniversary, I'm expecting we're going to see things that we never thought we'd ever see. But, while you were there, and it's always one of the things I always notice about when you compete, and I've seen you competing the last few years, is I don't know that I've ever seen you without that positive smile, that zip in your step, the joy inside your cooking station. How do you maintain that when you're up against the clock? You're up against ingredients that may not be doing exactly what you want, things that are happening. How do you maintain that positivity throughout?
Honestly, it's the support system I have behind me. The first couple of years that I competed at World Food Championships, my sous chef was my mom. In the past few years, my sous chef is my now husband. I'm a newlywed. We just got married this past September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's just having them by my side helps me to focus on nothing. But my husband and I have a mantra right before every competition: cook good food today. Cook good food today. And we just say it over and over. Anytime one of us is like, we're going to cook good food today. That's all we're doing today. Mm-hmm. And that's what just keeps us going. And as soon as we start touching food is our love, food is our passion. And we just have fun with it straight on through. It's not until, and that's the part you don't see, is as soon as the judges part happens and we're waiting for results and we're at the award ceremony waiting to find out what happens, that's when the nerves and the fear and the excitement and all that sets in.
I mean, and that's the thing is when you've cooked the dish, you've worked on it, you've practiced it, you're getting into your station, and now you're finally going to cook for the judges. The clock's going to start, you're going to watch the countdown. You've practiced this dish a million times. I think that there is that switch. There's that when you finally touch that first piece of food, you put the knife on the cutting board, you start getting going. There's a switch that goes off, and if that's truly what your passion is, all of your focus is right there. It's just, and you have a phenomenal partner to do it with, who is not only a phenomenal cheerleader for you, but also really gets in there and cooks with you. You're not, some teams struggle with, they have a head chef, and this is the same with restaurants. They have a super strong head chef, and the supporting staff is just not at the same level. You guys are a well-oiled machine. Each of you know what each of you is going to do, what your capabilities are, and you have everything mapped out. And man, it's a blast to watch you guys cook together.
It's a blast to cook, and he's so amazing because he knows me. I'm a lists person. I make lists. We follow the lists. So I have my prep list. He has his prep list. And throughout the entire time, we're just constantly communicating as to where we are and what needs to be done still. And by doing that, that's what sets us up for success.
Mm-hmm. Totally, absolutely agree. And now as you're leaving Dallas, you are finally 2 years at second place. You're finally walking away as a seafood champ. You are having it process as you're on your way home that in a few short months, you're going to be at final table. Now, while this is your first time winning the category, you have been at final table before as a sous chef. So you have gotten to see kind of a bird's eye view of what you may, in some degrees expect. Do you think that gives you an advantage going into final table?
I do think it gives me a little bit of an advantage. I was honored in 2019. The world chili champion, Rocky Giulianelle, lives here in Connecticut, just like me, and asked me to be his sous chef when he went to final table in 2019. So it was just a pleasure to be able to go to Indiana and experience it with him. So now at least I know the caliber, what's expected, and kind of a little bit of the format. But everything changes every year, so you never know. And if you look at this year's 10 champions going. I mean, Yvette's been there 3 times. AC's been there before. So we've got some heavy
Mm-hmm.
competition coming up.
I mean, you have a pretty good split of people who have been there before and people this is their first time. And again, this isn't really necessarily your first time being there because you were able to be there as a sous chef, which I think gives you a little less stress to really be able to take in what's happening. When you're the lead chef in a situation like that, it's all on. It's all on your shoulders. You've got to handle everything. When you're that sous chef, you have a little bit of opportunity to kind of absorb some things. Now, this year's, of course, going to be different. Lake Murray Country is rolling out the red carpet and some wrinkles to these competitions. And the one everybody's talking about is catch and cook. So I have to ask, have you ever gone fishing?
Oh, goodness. Can I just tell you first, the pressure for this round on the Seafood Champion, that alone is like, whew.
Yep.
But prior to becoming a chef, I went to college to be a marine chemist. So I did an awful lot of my days studying fish, catching fish, and taking all of their measurements, doing all that kind of fun stuff. My problem is I don't do a lot of rod and reel type fishing. I've done a lot of net type fishing. So this is going to be a new type experience for me.
I think it's one of those things that I am most excited about is when we all get started on that day and everybody heads out, I will absolutely 100% be there. And we're going to be just seeing how things change because each competitor will be paired up with a boatsman and his boat, and they're going to go out, and you're going to catch something. We know what we want to be catching, but we don't know what you're actually going to catch. So I think that this gives probably one of the most creative wrinkles to a stage in the competition that we've seen yet. But I also think we have a very versatile field. We have our youngest competitor that has ever competed at a final table, and we have somebody who's been to all nine World Food Championships and competing in her first final table. And then where you have been in your category, you're a stalwart in the seafood category, and now this is your first year going. Has there been anything in particular from a skill set wise you've really been focusing on to improve prior to getting to Lake Murray Country?
I'm going to be honest, it's actually fabricating the fish. I'm used to doing it from whole fish that you get in a store or from your supplier, which has already been gutted and in most cases has already been have all the scales removed. So those are the two things that I've been kind of focusing on, learning / picking up. I'm in Connecticut, so it is a little bit chilly willy to go fishing at this moment. But we've been doing the best we can to source fish and practice and watch a lot of videos on it.
That's the thing that I'm wondering. Everybody's focused in on the catching the fish part. And I still sit back and go, as tricky as that could be, being able to break that fish down properly, not give a judge scales, not give a judge one of those tiny little bones, not end up with a bloodline in there. There are so many things when it comes to breaking down a fish you have to look out for that I think if these competitors focus a little too much on the catching, they may not spend as much time on fabrication, which is going to be a huge, huge determining factor over who survives that round to go forward. But I think it's just as exciting to see that biscuit round to open things up right there with all the public there and this big party atmosphere at Lake Murray Country. I think that we're going to have an opportunity to really see who is, without a doubt, this year's World Food Champion because of that diversity of competition.
Absolutely. And only half of those 10 champions get to actually go fishing. The first 10 of us, all 10 of us, get to do the biscuits round and really get to put their first and for half of them their only stamp on their final table presence. And so that dish means so much.
I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be a really great time. I've been on, I've had the pleasure of talking with the people from Lake Murray Country several times getting ready for this. What a great area. I can't wait to be there because the spirit of the people there from Lake Murray country is just phenomenal. They're super excited to see all the competitors hit the ground there. Is there one competitor in specifically that you're excited to get there and see again and cook against?
So as far as the other competitors, they are such an amazing team of talent. And I've looked at past groups of final table competitors, and the camaraderie and the friendship lasts a lifetime. So I'm just so excited to be able to spend time with all of them. Competition, you know what the judges say, it happens. No matter who ranks in what position, it happens. But I'm very excited to be a part of Final Table 2021 in Lake Murray, South Carolina.
Now, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your dish that was your winning category dishes. So you cooked basically 3 times. In the first round, you had a structured dish and a signature dish, and then that brought you into your top 10 round, and then you had a dish in your top 10 down. What were your 3 dishes that you cooked?
So for our structured dish in the seafood category, everyone had to do a fish taco. So I was extraordinarily honored that our fish taco was the highest ranking in the category. I went extraordinarily boozy. I did a beer battered catfish, a bourbon bacon jam, sangria pickled onions, and a mango margarita slaw.
So you just went the entire top shelf bar and hit everybody's favorite flavors and drinks and made a fish taco out of it. You have to win that round. I mean, you have to walk away going, I just created the best fish taco that has ever existed.
And that's how I kind of cook, is I just take what we would want to eat and put it all on a plate.
That's perfect. That's when you know you're going to stay true to who you are. When you don't try to go out to, well, this isn't really my favorite thing to eat, or this isn't my favorite thing to cook, and so I'm going to try. But when you stick to your roots about who you are as a chef, man, you can really put some phenomenal things on a plate, and that's what you did there.
Absolutely. And with every dish that I do, I have a story, I have a reason, I have research behind it. I put a lot of thought into what I put on the plate before it ever gets there.
That's amazing. All right, so we had the top shelf bar fish taco. What came next?
Next was our signature dish. My husband is a huge fan of scallops. So we did a caprese stuffed scallop, which is fresh mozzarella and fresh tomatoes and basil. Took that scallop, wrapped it in prosciutto, pan-seared it, and we served it over lobster orzo pilaf with a pomegranate balsamic glaze.
So you just, again, went and blew everybody away. But I think what's phenomenal about the way you just described those 2 dishes, every one of those individually is familiar. It's known, it's understandable, it's relatable. You just combine them in a way that made this superior dish. Even now you come into this dish, you took something that is really well loved, like scallops, also very easy to under or overcook.
Absolutely.
And you took caprese, which is one of those, appetizers everybody orders because it's phenomenal and very bright and fresh. And you combined all of that, and you took, any judge that sat there, because you never know who the judges are. Any judge that sat there and read that and started to taste that would be able to taste and recognize every one of those flavors, which is a key to making it through WFC's judging. So kudos. I mean, that's doing your research. That's understanding how the judging works. Phenomenal.
And it's also taking a risk too, in some cases, because typically people don't pair cheese with seafood. So it was taking this bit of a risk of having this element that you normally serve cold, that you normally wouldn't put with fish, and combining the two into a hot item, seafood forward.
It's amazing. I mean, what a great idea. And those 2 dishes there packaged together and put you right into the top 10 round.
Absolutely. And going into top 10, we were in 4th place. And then we went into the infused round, which our
Mm-hmm.
infused ingredient was Rosie's Relsa. And I was not familiar with Rosie's Relsa prior to World Food Championships. And that's one of the amazing things about this competition is it introduces me as a chef to ingredients that I've never experienced before, but that
Mm-hmm.
inspire me to create something completely new. And the moment I tasted Rosie's Relsa, it brought me to a place with a particular dish. Chicken scarpiello is something very popular around my region of the country. And it's chicken sauteed with hot cherry peppers and potatoes and
Yep.
tomatoes, and it's just a really nice dish. So I decided to turn that into a seafood dish. So in that top 10 round, we did a Scarpiello inspired sauce that normally takes, a significant amount of time to simmer
Right.
and reduce. We made it happen in 90 minutes. And then we made our own fettuccine from scratch, did a pan-seared Chilean sea bass right on top. And then we used the concept with Scarpiello is the chicken's also sauteed with sausage. So we made our own shrimp sausage from scratch in competition, poached it off, pan-seared it, sliced it, and served that with the dish.
So not only did you make fettuccine from scratch, you went ahead and made sausage from scratch. I mean, but that again, it tells you what it takes to win in the landscape of the World Food Championships right now. You're talking about the best of the best of the best. So if you can't bring it from scratch, it was like talking to AC who made the English muffin from scratch. That's what you guys did to win these categories, to make it to this point where now you're going to take all of those skills, all of that tenacity, all of that bravery and ingenuity and try for that $100,000 title. And I mean, this is elevating. I will tell you that in all my years there at WFC, this is the year I saw dishes elevated the most out of any year I've ever seen them. They are getting higher and higher. Judging is getting tougher, and the dishes are getting better. And I think that is where you're really starting to separate the creme de la creme. So, man, what a job you guys did. And now you guys are going to be at final table together.
It's one of the beauties of this year that they introduced the X Factor, because that has been a game changer, and it has forced good chefs to become even better chefs. It's not just about the ingredients that you use, but how you treat them and what you do with them.
That's right. So on that note, for anybody who's teetering, we're looking at the 10th anniversary. So let's go past final table for a minute. And we're looking at the 10th anniversary of the World Food Championships in Dallas, Texas. It'll be bigger than ever because, again, it's the 10th anniversary. There are going to be a lot of huge, huge surprises coming that way. If you were giving advice to someone who is deciding, should I compete, should I try, what's the advice you would pass along for them?
Anyone who's thinking about competing, absolutely, absolutely do it. If you can't do it, then come see it so you can get ready for the next year.
That's right.
Because year 10 is going to be the epic, amazing awesomeness that I can't wait to be there for. So I know spots are filling up really fast already. So anybody who can't qualify for 2022, come down, come see it, and get yourself ready for 2023.
It's absolutely right. You know, another thing I throw in there is take a judging class. Take an eat methodology class. Learn how the food is judged. It is not what you think. Really learn, because that will have a huge impact on how you compete. And, you know, again, we're talking with this year's reigning, undisputed seafood champion coming out of Dallas this year, Chef Carol Cody. Carol, what is the best way for people to follow you on your food journey? If people want to keep up with what you're doing, what you're up to, how can they follow you?
I am very active on my Facebook page. You can find me with my name, Carol Cody. I'm also active on Instagram. You can find me at Chef Carols.
Well, guys, that's the thing. You want to get an idea of what it's like to be a chef, to be a competitor, to be in this level of food sport. Follow our competitors, follow what they're doing, and bookmark theworldfoodchampionships.com. Just go ahead and save that right so it's a quick click for you, because that is where all the deadlines are. That's where the competitions are. It's where you can find out about qualifying. And more importantly, you can find out about tickets to show up in Dallas for the 10th anniversary event. We're also going to have videos coming out of Final Table that you can find there. Follow the World Food Championships on both Facebook and Instagram. We will be live from the Final Table multiple times. You'll get to see Chef Carol and the rest of the competitors compete and see how they turn in, what's the pressure like, what's it like there in Lake Murray Country, South Carolina. So follow the World Food Championships on Facebook and Instagram. Chef Carol, Cody, congratulations again on your big win.
Thank you. Thank you.
And everybody, caring is sharing. Share out the podcast. This is Food Sports Central, the podcast of the World Food Championships. And I am, of course, your host, Mark Conway. And thank you for watching. Next week, Final Table. See you then.